and also the chair of this working group for which the meeting is being held in Mumbai, the second working group meeting of the Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group, which is meeting in Mumbai from tomorrow, that is 23rd to 25th. So this is a pre-event press briefing. And I also welcome Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, who is a member of the National Disaster Management Authority of India. So I request Kamal Kishorji, who's just flown in from New York after attending the Sendai Framework meeting in the United Nations. And I request Kamal Kishorji to give his introductory remarks, and then we will invite questions. And as usual, I request all of us to please keep the mobiles on silent. And when you ask the questions, please give your name and the name of your organization. I request the photographers and the camera people to settle down. Thank you. Sir.
Good afternoon, friends from the media. As you know, under India's presidency of G20, a new working group on disaster risk reduction has been started. Before this, disaster risk reduction issues were discussed in piecemeal fashion from time to time under G20, but not in a comprehensive way. So under our presidency, under the Sherpa track, a new working group was started. We issued a note describing the 5 priorities of the group: early warning for all, resilient infrastructure, financing frameworks for disaster risk reduction, improved disaster response systems, including for recovery and building back better after disasters, and ecosystem-based approaches to disaster risk reduction. The whole notion of setting up a new working group on disaster risk reduction has received enthusiastic response from all the G20 members, as well as guest countries and international organizations. The first meeting of the working group was held in Gandhinagar from 30th March to 1st of April earlier this year. And now from tomorrow, 23rd, we will have a 3-day meeting, which will be the second meeting of the Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group. The timing of this working group meeting is particularly important. It comes just after the midterm review of the progress against Sendai framework that the review meeting took place in New York last week. And we are finding that the world is off track. We are not going to meet the targets enshrined in the Sendai framework. There are 7 targets. So it is really important that G20 countries, as some of the largest economies in the world, put their imagination together, put their initiative together to give a sense of urgency to disaster risk reduction efforts. The 3-day meeting that we are planning will be divided as follows. The first day, which is tomorrow, will be a side event on looking at different aspects of financing disaster risk reduction. Financing disaster risk reduction, financing recovery and reconstruction, looking at the role of insurance, looking at the role of social protection systems. So a comprehensive discussion on that. And then the formal meeting of the working group will start on 24th. It will be 2-day meeting, 24th and 25th. On those days also, there will be 2 side events, one on risk assessments, how do we understand risk to our systems from disasters, as well as a focus on private sector, the role of private sector. There will be a private sector roundtable. We are here in Mumbai. A lot of the private sector entities are here. So this is a suitable place to have that conversation as to how do we mobilize the initiative, imagination, and know-how of the private sector in disaster risk reduction. And on the 25th, the final day, we will have a discussion on building blocks of what could be the joint statement of this new working group, which we will then try to accomplish and complete by the end of the third meeting, which will take place in Chennai in the last week of July. So I think this is briefly this thing. We are expecting about 120 participants. All the members have confirmed participation. Most of the guest countries will be there. A large number of international organizations will be there. We are expecting 120 to 150 people for these 3 days. We will also take this opportunity to show Mumbai to our guests. We will have a program at the Gateway of India tomorrow evening, a cultural program followed by a dinner for them to see a part of our history, a part of our culture, and get a sense of our traditional hospitality as well. So with that, we can take questions, and unless General Hasnain wants to add something at this point.
I may only just add that I think this has been a great opportunity. G20 has actually given us a great opportunity to India to showcase what it has achieved in the last maybe 18, 20 years in the domain of disaster management. We can take our minds back to 2005 when the Disaster Management Act of India was passed by the Parliament, and since then we have come a very long way, where today we are seen to be among the leaders who are looking at disaster management and actually leading the way in many ways. This is a great opportunity, and coming back to the city of Mumbai, we all remember what happened here on 25th of July 2005, when the city was absolutely doomed almost at that time. Since then, we have come a long way, I think. We've seen disasters all over the country, but you've seen the application of technology with better knowledge management. Risks have been reduced to a great extent, and the government of India has gone to a great extent to finance and underwrite a lot of efforts which have gone on in the domain of disaster management. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, you want to go first?
Hi, Preeti here from Network 18. My question is, Network 18, are these people going to visit the Mumbai Municipal Corporation headquarters also tomorrow?
So we would like to showcase some of the work that BMC is doing, particularly in the area of early warning, control center and all of that. So yes, we will have a short field visit as well.
Two interesting questions. So you referred to about the financing of the disaster management and the resilience. Where India is positioned right now when it comes to financing vis-a-vis the other countries, is there any kind of a sharing of such kind of various modes of financing? That's one, because you talked about insurance. There has been a lot of gray areas into that. That's one question. The second question, you talked about the risk assessment. What I really found interesting is the participation of the private sector. So how they are coming forward in this kind of an activity?
So in response to the first question, India is one of the few countries, very few countries, that have a mechanism for financing disaster risk management and all aspects of disaster risk management. So the 15th Finance Commission allocated funding for disaster risk mitigation, for disaster response, for recovery and reconstruction, for capacity building and preparedness. In most countries, most of the resources are allocated just for response. Here we have the entire spectrum of needs that are covered by financing. And that's resources available for 5 years in a predictable fashion to all the states. And there is, in addition to that, the fund from the National Disaster Risk Management Fund. So there are some good practices that we can share, but at the same time, there are other countries that are doing innovative things that we would like to look at and see how we can benefit. So it's not a one-way thing. It is an exchange along multiple lines. The second thing, private sector, how they come into it, we will of course know when we have a dialogue with them. But what I can say is that private sector is quite aware of the risks they face in terms of disasters and how they should build their facilities, their operations in a manner that they are resilient to these risks. So we want to see what is it that they can bring to the wider effort of disaster risk reduction, as well as what is the kind of horizontal collaboration possible between different private sector entities. Thank you. No, I wouldn't like to mention any names. There are many, because if I take any names, I will eventually leave someone or the other.
But once they have already done, these are the companies that have been identified.
No, it's not. It's whoever is available and willing to engage in the conversation is invited.
Sorry. I'm Clara Lewis. I represent the Times of India newspaper. India's response time to disasters is very quick. In fact, when we compare to other developed countries also, we are far superior in terms of our responses and also with regard to thinking on our feet. Wanted to understand, will India take this as a platform to capitalize on this expertise that it has to offer to the world?
Yes, of course, we would like to share what we know, what we do well, but it's both ways. There are aspects of disaster response that other countries, other entities may be doing better than us. So it is an exchange between all of us. So, how do we collectively work together in improving everyone's response time, everyone's quality of response, effectiveness of response? So, yes. Yes.
I'd like to add one bit to it. In the domain of disaster management, knowledge management is a very important aspect. And experience management, because every country has a unique experience of how it has brought a response to a particular type of a situation. This is something that the world is seeking today. If there's a forest fire burning in America, in California, or a forest fire burning in Australia, does it have similar lessons for us here in terms of response also? So these kind of exchanges take place in most of these disaster management meetings, platforms, etc., where exchanges of this kind take place. All this leads to disaster risk reduction.
Amma?
One of your events where you mentioned that India would be the worst affected due to heat wave. Would that be also covered in this disaster risk reduction?
So let me first qualify what you just said. We don't know whether India will be worst affected by heat wave, but India would be one of the worst affected because heat wave is a serious problem for us. And we are quite aware of that. And for the last 6-7 years, the government has been working assiduously to address the heat wave problem. Every year in January, February, we do a stock taking of our preparedness for heat wave for the coming season, lessons learned from the previous, and continuously improve. So whether it will be worse, we don't know, but we will. Heat is definitely an issue for us. That's very clear. With regards to this meeting, we look at all hazards. Though no hazard is left out, whether it's heat wave, whether it's cyclones, floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides. So it covers the entire spectrum of disasters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, my name is Gaurav Narula. I'm from the True Hunt Online. Sir, my question is, recently Turkey was hit by an earthquake and India on humanitarian grounds helped Turkey with the sending NDRF and other medical assistance. So, and on G20 platform, the world is coming together. So is there any international disaster fund talked about so that in spite of helping each other on country-to-country basis, a disaster international fund can help in these scenarios and seeing the global warming and environmental changes which is affecting the world altogether, sir?
Thank you for that question. In terms of International Disaster Response Fund, there are already existing funding mechanisms, such as a fund called, which is managed by the UN called CERF, C-E-R-F, Central Emergency Response Fund or Facility, I don't remember. So those are there. So we are not discussing the creation of a new fund as such. We are looking at how do we make our response systems at the local level, subnational level, national level, and international level more and more effective, whatever it takes, whether it takes better capacities, better mechanisms, better funding mechanisms, all of that. So it's not like talk about funding first and effectiveness later. It's talk about effectiveness and see how do we make things effective. Ultimately, I have to underline this, ultimately we have to make the local level systems as robust as possible, because no international response or national response is a substitute for strong local capacities. Here in India, we have invested a whole lot in building our local capacities. You know, a number of our states, almost 24, now have state disaster response forces. You know, NDMA runs a program called Aapda Mitra, which goes even local. You know, it goes up to district, village level. So ultimately, what we are after is effectiveness. And a key pillar of that effectiveness is local capacity. In that, it would be good to share experiences with other countries, how they have done it, how do they invest in local capacities, how do they sustain it. So that is the emphasis. Thank you.
Side events, I think already an advisory is there. You can be a part of the side event in the viewing room. So if you're interested, you can always sit in the viewing room and listen to the discussions of the side events.
So the disaster risk reduction working group has determined for itself 5 priorities. Number 1 is early warning for all. Number 2 is resilient infrastructure. Yeah, so in India, the 15th Finance Commission made comprehensive recommendations about how to finance different aspects of disaster risk reduction. So now the states have funds available for disaster response, immediate response, post-disaster reconstruction and recovery, disaster mitigation, meaning preventive activities, and disaster preparedness and capacity development.
डिजास्टर के लिए फंड हम लोग रखते हैं, तो इंडिया का हर ईयर में कितना डिजास्टर फंड अपने जोगवाई करते हैं?
अगर मैं इंटरनेशनल ऑडियंस के हिसाब से बताऊं तो टोटल जो एलोकेशन है 5 साल का फाइनेंस कमीशन का, वो $29 बिलियन है. तो अब आप मैच कर लीजिए. यस, ऑल स्टेट्स फॉर 5 years. सो आप ये फाइनेंस कमीशन 15वें वित्त आयोग की जो रिपोर्ट देखें, उसका 8वां अध्याय, 8वां चैप्टर, उसके अंदर विस्तार से ये सब बताया गया है.
So I hope that your response to all the side events will be enthusiastic, because there is a lot to learn. And as I had said in my earlier meeting with you, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for the media in Mumbai to be part of the G20. So I hope that I'll see you all every day till the 25th. And 25th at 6 o'clock, Kamal Kishore ji will brief us again for the end of the event, press briefing in the same venue. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.